There's something no one ever told you about getting older. Something that society tries to hide behind Botox ads, gym obsessions, and endless posts about glow-ups and anti-aging secrets. But don't want you to know this, because if you did, you'd stop doubting yourself. You'd stop chasing, and you'd realize that the very things you thought were making you less attractive are actually making you undeniable. See, most men are terrified of aging. They believe their prime ends in their 20s, that youth is the key to being desirable. They compare themselves to younger guys with tighter skin, fast metabolism, and louder personalities, and they forget something essential. A woman's deepest attraction doesn't respond to youth. It responds to depth. And depth doesn't come from age alone. It comes from experience, from surviving things, from carrying pain, from learning to walk through fire and coming out calmer instead of colder. That's what women really crave, even if they don't say it out loud. They crave a man whose presence calms the room, not competes for it. A man whose silence speaks louder than a boy's shouting. A man who doesn't need to be the center of attention because he is the center of his own world. And that man is you. Maybe you don't see it yet. Maybe you've been so busy working, surviving, providing, pushing through that you haven't taken a step back to realize how much you've grown. But here's what most older men never hear. You're becoming more attractive in ways you can't measure in likes or swipes. You're becoming magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because you've stopped trying at all. You've started being. There's a quiet confidence that shows up in your eyes, a weight in your voice that wasn't there 10 years ago, a pause between your words that speaks volumes. Without trying to impress. You don't need to charm. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Because the most attractive older men, they don't push to be seen. They simply exist in a way that can't be ignored. And maybe you've started to feel it. The way younger men seek your guidance without asking. The way women glance twice, not just at your looks, but at your stillness. The way people feel something when you speak, even if you're saying nothing at all. That's presence. That's power. And that's exactly what I'm going to reveal in this video. Because there are 7 specific signs that you may be more attractive than you realize, especially as you get older. These signs don't show up on dating apps or in the mirror. They show up in how women respond to you, how they soften around you, how they open up without knowing why. If you've ever wondered whether you're still desirable, or if your best years are behind you, stay right here, because I'm about to show you that your real prime as a man isn't behind you. It's just beginning. Let's get into it. There's a quiet transformation that happens to a man as he grows older. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not marked by a birthday or a promotion or a number in your bank. It's slower than that. Quieter. It happens in the space between your past and your presence. In the way you stop reacting to things that once shook. In the way you start speaking less and meaning more. In the way you realize that the external chase, the attention, the approval, the validation was never where your value came from. And for the men who walk that path fully, without resisting it, without clinging to youth, without pretending to be something they're not, something incredible begins to happen. They become magnetic, not flashy, not loud, magnetic. Because attraction at this stage isn't about aesthetics. It's about energy. About the way a man stands when he knows who he is, the way he listens without interrupting, the way he stays calm when others panic, the way he smiles without needing anything in return. This isn't the kind of attraction that gets shouted from rooftops. It doesn't always show up in Instagram likes or dating app matches, but it does show up in the way women lean closer, in the way they trust you with stories they've never told anyone, in the way they feel safe around. Not because you're soft, but Because you're stable. And yet most men don't see it. They're too busy comparing themselves to younger men, distracted by a culture that glorifies youth and overlooks experience, caught up in the surface to realize that their very presence is now doing the work they used to force. So let me remind you of something powerful. Value isn't decreasing with age. Becoming more refined, more precise, more undeniable to the women who actually matter. Because the truth is, a woman who's mature, self-aware, emotionally intelligent, she's not looking for a boy to entertain her. She's looking for a man who makes her feel safe in his energy, grounded in his purpose, clear in his communication, and unshakable in his emotional center. That kind of man doesn't have to try to be attractive. He is attractive simply by being rooted in himself. So if you've been doubting your appeal, if you've looked in the mirror lately and questioned whether you've still got it, if you've quietly wondered whether your prime years are behind you, let this video show you what's really happening. Because what you're feeling isn't a decline, it's a refinement. And the signs are all there. Subtle, quiet, powerful, that you've become more magnetic than ever before. In the next few minutes, I'll break down 7 clear signs that you, as an older man, are deeply attractive to women, even if you haven't fully seen it yet. These aren't cliches. They're not tricks. They're not things you force. They're truths that rise to the surface when you stop chasing and start owning who you are. Let's begin. When you don't seek attention but you command it. There's a moment in a man's life when something shifts. He walks into a room and realizes he doesn't care who notices. And ironically, that's when everyone does, because there's a different energy to a man who doesn't crave eyes on him, a different gravity in his posture. He doesn't fidget. Doesn't chase small talk. Just calm, slow, deliberate, like a man who's nothing to prove and nothing to hide. This isn't indifference. Self-containment, and it's rare. Younger men often move with a sense of urgency, trying to be seen, heard, chosen. But the attractive older man, he no longer performs. It simply is. And women pick up on that. They may not know why they feel drawn to you, but they do, because your energy whispers, I know who I am. I don't need to convince you. That absence of neediness is incredibly attractive. It makes people trust you. It makes women feel curious. It makes you unforgettable. Not because you demand attention, but because you command presence. 2. Your silence is confident, not empty. One of the greatest signs of wisdom and strength is knowing when not to speak. You don't feel silence to avoid discomfort anymore. You've grown past that. Know that silence is not awkward. It's powerful. It's space. It's presence. When used correctly, it's felt. Don't speak to be heard. You speak when it matters. And that makes your words heavier, more meaningful, more grounded. Women love this in older men because they can feel that when you talk, it's not about proving your intelligence. It's about sharing value. You don't talk over people. You don't interrupt to dominate. You let others. You listen. And that listening is because what you offer is not conversation. It's connection. In a world full of noise, the man who knows how to sit still, how to look someone in the eyes, how to pause before speaking, he becomes magnetic. Your silence isn't a lack of words. It's the presence of 3. You're calm under pressure, and it shows. You've seen enough storms now to know that panic doesn't fix anything. You've been through breakups, betrayal, loss, business failures, health scares, and you've learned something most men never do. Calm is power, and that calm lives in your body now. You're no longer the man who gets defensive the moment you're challenged. You don't yell to get your point across. You don't lash out to feel in control. You breathe, center, yourself. You speak from clarity, not emotion. And women feel that. Immediately, they lean toward men who carry that grounded energy. Because in a world that feels unstable, you're the calm in the chaos. You make people feel. And the truth is, women aren't attracted to just looks or charm. They're drawn to the man who makes them feel emotionally secure. That safety comes not from your muscles, your money, or your lifestyle. Comes from your centeredness. And if you've developed that, you're far more attractive than for you've outgrown the need to compete. When you were younger, you probably saw other men as rivals. You compared your success. You measured your progress against theirs. You maybe even tried to win women's attention by outdoing someone else. But now you've learned that competition, the constant one-upmanship, is a trap. Because the real battle has always been with the man in the mirror. And when you shifted your focus inward, something powerful happened. You stopped chasing. You started becoming. And that's when the attraction started to build. Because the man who's focused on self-mastery doesn't get distracted by petty ego. He's on his own path. He has nothing to prove and everything to. You stopped comparing your journey. You started owning it. That's why women feel pulled toward you. Not because you're trying to win them over, but because you radiate a man who's already won himself. Know what you want and you don't apologize for it. Uncertainty is the hallmark of immaturity, and you've left that behind. The attractive older man walks with direction. He doesn't drift into situations. He doesn't say maybe when he means no. He doesn't over-explain his choices to avoid rejection. Clear, grounded, and not afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't align. You know what kind of energy you allow into your life. You know the kind of woman you're drawn to and the kind that drains you. You're no longer pulled by lust, but by resonance. That kind of inner clarity is deeply sexy. Because when a man knows what he wants and stands in it without fear, he becomes magnetic. Younger men try to impress. Younger men try to mold themselves into who she wants. But you show up as you are and let her decide if she fits into your world. That level of self-respect can't be faked. And it's why she looks at you differently. 6. You carry your experience like a weapon, not a wound. Every scar you carry has a story, but more than that, it has a lesson. You've been lied to. You've been rejected. You've made mistakes that left you embarrassed, ashamed, even broken. But you didn't stay there. You grew, turned your pain into wisdom, and that wisdom lives in your words now. It shapes your intuition. It shows up in the way you treat others, especially when no one's watching. Women can sense when a man has done his inner work. He doesn't blame. He doesn't project. He doesn't need her to fix what he's unwilling to face. You're not perfect, but you're self-aware. And that makes you dangerous. In the best way. Because when a man walks with his history, when he doesn't hide it but doesn't live in it either, he becomes a source of strength. Lighthouse. And women, especially the ones who've had to be strong for too long, find themselves drawn to that. But 7. You make her feel something most men can't. Safe without control. Here's the deepest layer, the rarest form of masculine attractiveness. You don't control her. You don't overpower her. You don't manipulate her. You simply create a space where she feels safe enough to soften. You don't flinch when she shows her emotions. Don't panic when she needs to process. You don't make her feel too much. Let her be, because you've learned how to hold yourself first. And that makes you incredibly attractive. Women aren't looking for men who can dominate a room. They're looking for a man who can hold. A man who doesn't fold under pressure. A man who doesn't retreat when things get hard. A man who can remain calm while everything else gets loud. You're that man now, not because you decided to be, but because life shaped you that way. And that kind of presence, that kind of energetic authority, it's unforgettable. It's not about charm. It's about capacity. She doesn't want a man who controls her. She wants a man who can hold her. And if you've become that, trust me, you're already one of the most attractive men she'll ever meet. If even one of these 7 signs resonated with you, then you're not just aging, you're evolving, because true attractiveness doesn't fade with time. It sharpens, deepens, it grows quieter and more undeniable. You're no longer here to just, you're here to lead, to hold, to observe, to move like a man who doesn't ask for the room. He owns it with his presence alone. That's not something you can fake. That's something you become. And if you felt yourself becoming that man, if you're walking that path even quietly, even imperfectly, then you've already stepped into a power most men never reach. That's what Stoic Stream is about. We're not here to teach tricks or games or gimmicks. We're here to remind you of what's already inside you, waiting to be claimed, to give words to the wisdom you've lived through, to sharpen the edge you've earned through scars, heartbreak, and discipline. So, if this message speaks to you, subscribe to Stoic Stream, because this channel is for men like you. Don't want to be louder, they want to be stronger, wiser, more present, more unshakable. Envelope with arrow. Comment below. Which of these signs felt most true for you? What did you realize about yourself as you watched? Remember this, you are not behind. Are not less than. You are not past your. You are becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to announce his presence, because his energy does it for. Stay calm, stay rare, stay grounded. This is Stoic Stream, and we're just getting started.